right, amen. Whew. See, for those of you who said that I don't go to the book of Revelation, I just read a whole chapter. And to think I've got another chapter to go, plus a couple of more things in Revelation. We may be in Revelation for another 2 weeks. Yay. All right. So, that all being said, this is the Afterburn. This is when we go ahead and take up any of the questions or comments from you guys here or also online. And how many we got on there now?
465.
Wow, we're getting close to 500. Yeah. 465. Wow. All right, awesome. Welcome to all of you 465 computers that are on there, people that are logged on with various amount of people there. And so if you have a comment or question and you're here in the congregation, you raise your hand, and Nate will try to find a way through all the seats to get to you. And if you're online, Kurt will take note of it from the online desk there. And so we're going to ask that, we try to keep this to about 15 minutes. I've not really ever put that setting on it. All right. I appreciate that is funny to most of you. But you got to let me finish my sentence before you laugh. Okay, so I'm trying to keep this to 15 minutes because the Rebbitzin asked me to, because the children's program ends up going very long. And it's very hard to keep children entertained for an hour and a half to almost 2 hours. Okay? Okay, because some of you have helped with the children's program. So I know you laugh, but remember, my motivation is now different. I'm trying to, as a servant, make sure I'm caring about other people's needs as well. So we will keep this. I got my timer actually running, so we'll keep this to a shorter period of time. I normally just try to answer all the questions so there aren't any more questions. We can't do that if we're going to be respectful of the people that are in there helping to work with the children. So if it was just up to me, I would agree with the laugh, because I probably wouldn't keep it to 15 minutes. All right, so we'll start with Christina.
As one of the people that helps with the kids, I can second that. They lose their interest pretty quickly. The past couple of weeks, I've been trying to think of the best way to say what I've been thinking. So I hope this comes out right. I am very thankful to the Father that I am not someone who came into this out of Christianity. I stopped believing Christianity when I was like 15. And it's just funny for me to go back and think that. But so coming into it, one of the things that did attract me to Torah was that it seemed that all throughout Torah there was agriculture. And that's the way that I hope to live my life, is to homestead and to provide for myself and to provide for my children. And that's pretty much the only other teacher that I listen to. I won't name names, but I'm sure most people here know who I'm talking about. He has a homesteading that he does, but he also does Torah as well. I don't really listen to any of his Torah teachings anymore. I do listen to him for agriculture, for homesteading and all that. That being said, do you have an opinion on that? Or do you have someone else that you would recommend who would teach that lifestyle through a Torah perspective?
I don't listen to his stuff. I mean, I know who you're talking about. I've actually talked to him on the phone once or twice years ago. Not too many years ago, like a year or two ago. And it was really about some homesteading issues, because we were looking to actually someone was going to give us 100 and something acres not too far from where he is in Missouri. I don't know how well he knows homesteading. I've heard good things about his homesteading stuff. And so I would say, fine, go ahead and listen to that. All right? But as far as his Torah teaching, no. Okay? You're all wondering who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Zach Bauer, new to Torah, and he also has a good homesteading thing. So you're all sitting here, why are you beating around the bush? I'm not I like him. He's a nice guy. He doesn't know what he doesn't know yet. Okay? And that's not a judgment on him. And if he hears this, he'll probably get all mad at me, and that's fine. But, he's one of those guys that's very excited and zealous and shouldn't be talking until he learned more. But I think, from what people tell me, he seems to know reasonable amounts of stuff about homesteading, so I would say that's fine to listen to. And use your filter when some of the other Torah stuff gets snuck in there or whatever. But there's just a lot of guys out there who are well-meaning, and they know a lot. And there's a reason why he calls his ministry New to Torah, because that's what he was when he started. Okay? And so if you are, you shouldn't be teaching. That's just being, honest and blunt. I'm not picking on anybody. But there's a lot of guys out there that are new, but they're teaching. Well, if you're new, why are you teaching? It takes a long time. It takes a certain amount of reasonably small to medium amount of time to learn some things. It takes a real long time to learn what you don't know. Because you think you know and you don't realize you don't know, and then you chugging along and you're speaking through those filters. And the way that you need to overcome those things is by having somebody say, oh, might not realize it, but that's the Baptist speaking, or the Pentecostal speaking, or the this speaking, or the that speaking, okay? That's not the Torah speaking. Now, I'm not always good at labeling because I don't always know what those denominations sound like, but I could tell them when I could say that's not the Hebrew Torah part speaking. Okay, that's the Christianity speaking. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But so I would not listen to them as teachers of Torah, but I would say that if you wanted to listen to the homesteading part, that may be okay.
I wanted to just share with you something that happened while you were teaching. When I came to Beth Shalom, the world, in my mind, was safer than community. Community was the most dangerous place. So it was a little, not hard, but difficult to wrap my brain around forever community being good, or the reward. And Father's been taking me through this, whatever we want to call it, or I've just been very intensely lonely. And the only time I don't feel that way is when I'm with you guys. And when you were asking that question of wanting to be with people, it just hit me, I'll get to be with you forever. So that mindset's completely changed, and that's just such a big praise for me.
Awesome.
And just the way the Father looks at the little details to change how that was in my mind was just amazing. Anyway, what you were talking about teachers and putting them not going for the hidden manna, I just wanted to add a brief testimony. When I was still vetting you, I heard that you mentioned that in another teaching, and I had the exact same reaction. I can filter it out. I've been doing this for a while. I can figure it out. I know what I'm doing. And within 12 hours, the Father supernaturally whacked me upside the head quite soundly, and I let that go. So it was just very powerful for me to have the Father back up your words so quickly and so succinctly. My question, however, it may be the same question or two different questions. I don't know how you want to answer it, and I may be just completely not listening during the teaching. I don't know if I missed it, but how do I find out if I have lost my first love? How do we gauge looking for ourselves in the Scripture? And how do I find out if I've lost? How do I tell that? And how do you tell if you're following the teachings of the Nicolaitans? How do you discern that?
All right, I can't answer either of those questions. Well, hold on, let me finish. And she's like, why not? Okay, number one, we don't know what he's meaning specifically on either of those. He doesn't say what first love is, and he doesn't say really what the Nicolaitan problem is. So everything is a guess there. What you want to do is you want to continue growing forward with the idea of enduring, overcoming, repenting, being open to learn and to see and to grow in understanding, and keep that focus going forward with the V'ahavta, with all your heart, with all your might, with all your strength, etc. That's all you can do. Some of you, by the way, didn't fall into the first love problem. Some of you came into a category of one of the ones you read where they started off kind of slow, and their last works were better than their first, because they actually started kind of figuring things out, and they didn't get that quick start. So you got two different groups. One kind of got a really good, zealous, quick start and kind of drifted a little bit. And the other one kind of wasn't, just launched into it, but kind of gained momentum as they were going along. So don't feel you've got to be one or the other. You're going to be one or the other, okay, or something in the middle, kind of more steady along. But it's about not figuring out what first love means, and it's not about figuring out what Nicolaitan is. Everybody wants to figure out, it's like trying to figure out what the sign of the beast is. But stop worrying about this stuff. Do what you're supposed to be doing, and you'll be fine. That's what he's told me anyway. Okay? The only thing I've ever said that he's told me to tell you that's not necessarily specifically a verse is that I believe that he's told me as a teacher to tell you, if you do what you're supposed to do with all your heart and effort, the way he's told you to do it, the best you can, and when you mess up, you teshuvah and go back, you'll be fine. Okay, that's all I can say. Stop worrying about these other things so much. Well, what if I accidentally take the mark of the beast? Stop worrying about that. Well, what if I'm accidentally this? Look, you do the best you can with all your heart, with all your might, with all your being. And when it's clear that you made a mistake, you teshuvah, you repent, you turn around, you get back on the path and go and do it again. Do Deuteronomy 8:2 and 10:12 and all the other stuff with the V'ahavta's motivation, you'll be fine. Okay? Stop worrying about these. What you're worried about, well, what if I commit that unforgivable sin? If you do anything and you still want to repent of it, you're fine. In other words, you're doing and you're trying and you're messing up and you're doing and trying and messing up. But when you mess up, you fix it by repenting and going forward. Stop trying to figure out where the lines are so you don't do that one thing. He's going to look at your body of work. He's going to want to see where your heart has been. And that's Deuteronomy 8:2, right? He wants to see if it's in your heart to keep his commands. Do you want to be submissive to his authority? So do all of that the best you can, and I'm sure you will be fine. That would be I feel that's what he's told me to tell you. No voices, no special messages. That's just the impression that I get, that's the all-encompassing sort of focus. Do it the best you can, wanting to be perfect in his eyes, and you'll be fine. Don't worry about how much you fall short. Every one of us has the same problem. None of us is, some of you think, well, everybody must be doing much better than me. Trust me. Not happening. Each one of us feels the same. Well, I'm sure so-and-so is doing better than I'm doing. You don't know what they're doing. You only spend so many minutes a day with them. You have no idea what they struggle with and what they're doing when you're not around and whatever's going on. And so don't compare yourself to other people. Do this as best you can with all your strength and might, etc. And you should because somebody had once said about this Are You Saved teaching, well, that's the most depressing teaching I ever heard because we have no assurance. You do have an assurance. Do this the best you can with all your heart and strength and keep making the adjustments when it's shown to you, and you should feel well assured you're in. Since that's the measuring stick he tells us he's using. Your effort, your desire to be pleasing in his sight. So you should have every confidence. Now by the way, this is like the example I gave about my friends who used to whine about, when they got a 70 on a test, and I was like, well, what did you think you were going to get? Well, a 70. So what are you shocked about? See, if you're not putting the effort in, if you're not overcoming, if you're not repenting, then you also know what's going to happen on Judgment Day. Well, you don't like that, but you deserve it. If you're putting in the effort. You should have no surprise what's going to happen on Judgment Day because not the fact that, don't think of that, but I keep failing, so I'm going to be no good. No, but you keep hating that you're failing and you keep trying. That's what matters. Okay? That you hate that you fail and you keep on trying. You pick yourself up, dust off, boom, go. Try again. Okay? You start over, you're on your face, you're repenting, you blew it again, you get up and you try again. Just keep doing that. You'll be fine. Do it with everything you've got. Why wouldn't you think you'd be okay at that point? But if you've been complacent, if you're lazy, if you're not putting in the effort, if you really do just whatever you want to do and you really don't care and you don't repent, and so does he. So you shouldn't be surprised. So you know what the wailing and gnashing of teeth is? It's the people that thought they were going to go away with it and didn't get away with it. It's not because they're surprised, that the penalty's there. They just thought somehow they were going to skate through. That's the people that are like, oh, mad. They're mad. It's like the person who got mad because he got a ticket. You're not mad because you got a ticket. You're mad because you thought you shouldn't have got the ticket because you should have got away with it because almost every day you do. And then one time they caught you and pulled you over, you're mad. But you're not mad at you for speeding. You're mad at them for giving you the ticket. That's the wailing and gnashing of teeth. They're not going to be mad at themselves for sinning and not repenting and going their own way and being rebellious. They're going to be mad because the lake of fire is real and they're going to get it. So that's why they're wailing. Does that make sense? Because some people think of the wailing and gnashing of teeth. They're, oh, I'm sorry now. No, they're not. Those people are going to be wailing and gnashing of teeth because they're going to get what they were told they were going to get, and somehow they thought they were going to get around it, or away with it, or not receive it. Just like you when you got pulled over for speeding. You're all mad because he pulled you over. You're not mad because you were speeding. Be honest. Every one of you, after you got a speeding ticket, went out within less than a day and were speeding again. Weren't you? How many of you, I'll be shocked if a hand goes up. How many of you, after getting your first speeding ticket, never sped again? Nobody. Okay? So you didn't learn anything. You were mad because they gave you the ticket. Well, you don't count. He said he never got a speeding ticket. By the way, he's the one you're all honking at who's in your way. Why are you going so slow? Well, he's going the speed limit. Nobody does that. Get moving. Now you know. All right, over here, Mr. Frederick. Okay, but you guys understand what I'm saying with the metaphor, right? The metaphor is none of you, after getting that ticket, blamed you to shuvad and fixed the problem. No, the problem was, I know, if I paid better attention, I'd have seen him and I'd have slowed down. So I'm mad at myself because I got distracted. So I'm just going to turn off the radio and pay a little better attention. Oh, you'll blame the person who was talking to you. Well, you know, if you hadn't been talking to me, I would have seen him and I wouldn't have gotten pulled over. Okay? Or the wife is good or the husband's good who's sitting next to the driver, whichever one's not driving goes, well, you know, if you had been paying attention, blah, 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 blah. See, that's the same thing we're talking about here, though. The people are not mad because they messed up. They're mad because they got busted for messing up. That you weren't allowed to get away with. Can we all admit that's the problem? So if you could fix that heart problem, you'll be fine. Instead of receiving a fine. I couldn't resist, sorry. Okay? And so that's the important thing. Hopefully everybody gets that.
Throughout the Tanakh, examples of sin is called whoring and adultery and stuff right there. Through verse 20 through 22, is using Jezebel or Isabel an example, a type of Israel or whoring? You understand?
Well, I mean, look, it's a type of the person that's going to say, I know better, I understand what Yahweh wants, I'm going to interpret through my own filters, and then I'm going to go ahead and teach everybody that what they're doing is right when it's wrong. The whole Christian system is that, more or less, okay? And you got a lot of Messianics, but, he said in some Messianics, but those are the ones who still haven't gotten the Christianity out. Okay? Which is why all these new guys are still not qualified to teach. Not because they're wrong on their Torah necessarily, but they're still teaching it through the Christian filters. So it's affecting the way they understand Torah. Or they're filtering it through emotional responses to things that happen to them. Okay, there's a lot of rejection of leadership because some of these guys experience some pretty awful leadership. So now they're going to justify that their way of spinning Torah is against leadership somehow. Okay, and I've heard that out of some of these guys. And so, if you're not mature enough to have overcome your emotional damage, don't teach what's coming through your emotional filter. Some of you have heard me tell you this privately recently. Don't let your emotional person drive. Okay, don't make choices and decisions when you're in that state, then you're letting your emotions drive the bus. Okay? You need to drive when you're calm, rational, logical, reasonable, etc. When you're still emotional, you're angry, you're upset, or you're over the top excited and zealous, whatever it is, don't let the emotional you have the steering wheel and choose where you're going. Then you need to let someone else drive. And that's why some of these guys shouldn't be teaching. They should be letting somebody else drive because they're either A, they don't know enough, or B, they're still driving with their emotional person instead of the other. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, Shira? See, I understand now the problem isn't the questions, it's the long answers that this guy is giving. Okay.
Thank you so much. This is just a great teaching. And I shall give to each one of you according to your works. I'm very impressed with Yahweh's fairness, that he's looking in the final judgment. Each one of us is judged individually, and some of these who were part of maybe an assembly who was doing some things wrong but weren't partaking in that, he singled them out. But then it hit me, it's like, uh-oh, there's another side to that coin. Because here we are.
Is it a silver coin?
Yeah, it's a...
Because Manny's got his up and ready in case someone's watching.
It isn't what you're thinking of because the women's coins aren't here yet.
Another 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, is it the other side of the coin what?
The other side of it, though, is, here we are part of a fellowship that's growing. We have a lot of good fruit coming. We have people, we're excited about some of the things that are happening, the bonding that's happening. And I found myself at times thinking, well, I must be in. I'm part of MTOI, and they're right. And I think, the warning to me was, you're not getting in on MTOI's coattails. Each one, myself, I have to look at what is my behavior.
Amen. Look, being in the right place only is one decision. And so, you get credit for that decision if you ended up making a decision to be in a place and it turns out to be the right place. But you don't get that one decision doesn't now fix everything, okay? And so if you find a good teacher, well, just because the teacher is a good teacher, and if you're not doing and following what Abba's giving you through that teacher, just being the fact that you have a good teacher doesn't do anything either, okay? It really comes down to you. And see, that's the part that Christianity is completely taken away that we're trying to put back in because it's always been there, is that you have personal accountability and responsibility for your actions. Whereas Christianity gives you the opposite. It's all about what Yeshua did, and he took away all the things you did that were wrong, and everything you needed to do that was right, he did it for you. No personal accountability or responsibility whatsoever. Am I exaggerating? Okay? And so we're trying to show you scripturally, and there it is right at the end. And by the way, it also is the very end in Revelation 21 and 22, and we're going to read that, or 20 and 22 next week. But the thing is, all the way to the very end is going to be because of what you've done, and he's going to look and watch and see what you've done, that he's going to make decisions about you. Okay? By the way, that's why I've told all of you that forcing in any which way you want, through embarrassing or cajoling or prodding or making somebody do something that's Torah, doesn't help anything. Forcing people to do. I've had people come up to me, Rabbi, why aren't you doing this? Because, so-and-so's doing that. I said, well, because it's not my job to make them do anything. Now, unless what they're doing is creating a problem for the rest of the group, if it's only hurting them, and then for some whatever reason you happen to be aware of it, it's not my job to fix that. I can sit down and talk to them about it maybe. But if they start doing it because I made them do it, or embarrassed them into it, or whatever, leveraged them in some way, that's just not going to work. So that when they're on Judgment Day and Yahweh says, well, I see that you did blah, 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 blah. And the person goes, yeah, I did. He said, yeah, but I also know that the only reason you did it is because so-and-so kind of forced you into it. You really didn't want to. Remember, it's about your heart about the thing. You're wanting to. Remember Deuteronomy 8:2, right? That he wants to know if it's in your heart to keep the commandments. Well, no, I was doing it because the rabbi made me do it. No, my father made me do it. No, my best friend at the congregation embarrassed me into doing it. I really didn't want to do it. So doing it without the heart doesn't accomplish anything. It's just mechanics. Okay, so let's take that part of this responsibility too, to realize that, just like Shira was saying, he's looking at us individually. He's also watching how you as an individual interact with the group. But you can't get in because the group gets in, and you're not going to not get in if the group screws up, but you didn't. It's going to be ultimately you, okay? And your choices. By the way, that means your choices are who you hang out with, who you spend time with, who you're listening to. What are your inputs, right? Everything you listen to, read, watch, people you hang out with, these are all the inputs. And these are all choices you make and decisions you make. Guess what? He's watching to see the quality of your choices. That's why making decisions is the reason you exist. Go back and listen to that. One-part teaching. There aren't a whole lot of those anymore. It's like finding a diamond or something in a sea of pebbles, I mean, there's one-part teaching, wow. Okay? And so just understand that that's really critical. All right, Kurt, real quick.
right.
I know that's a challenge right there, right? Kurt, real quick on the live stream.
Lots of questions. I think you just need to probably just say get with you during the week. They want to know what the Morning Star reference is about, more about the Nicolaitans.
Yeah, I told them we're not going to answer all the eschatology stuff.
Right. So,
Not today. I mean, I could, but not today.
And it's hard with some of these questions to even not keep them in context. One here says, could the Jezebel also be referring to the Torah teachers out teaching without a covering and usurping the order within the body?
Sure. Exactly. Okay. Anybody that is not under correct authority structure, that is teaching and leading people to think that basically they're okay when they're not, falls under that. Okay? Because remember, the idea of being a prophetess is someone claiming they're speaking for Yahweh. Okay? So someone claiming they're speaking for Yahweh that's not properly covered would absolutely fall under it. Good point. And most of the people out there have no covering, so.
All right. Give you one more here. It's a little lengthy, but I'll shorten it a little bit. Chapter 2, verses 2 through 5. It says, I'm unmarried, however, I see the covenant like a marriage. This metaphor applies in relation to what you said about focusing so much on mechanics. Would this be like a married couple who love each other, get in the routine of married life, and then grow, and love grows cold? Does this metaphor apply? If so, what advice or encouragement would you suggest for disciples? In reference to chapter 2, verses 2 through 5.
All right. So, think about it if you're a married couple. So, you can understand very well what this is talking about to some degree. There are things that you did when you first were trying to get to that place of becoming a married couple. And you might have even done in the beginning when you first got married that you don't do anymore. Okay? Because it was new, it was exciting. You were so just focused on the other person. Then all of a sudden, life's busy realities kicked in, and you didn't keep a priority on the needs of the attention given to your spouse. And so all of a sudden, they're losing out to jobs, careers, children, whatever. Okay? A lot of women become sort of widowed by the man focusing on work. A lot of men become widowed by the women focusing on children. Okay? It happens, you can go either way, all right? And so, you end up not getting what you did when you first were in love, quote unquote, and wanted to get married, as you did certain things to impress the other person, to win their affection, to show them and convince them how much you cared about them and how important they were in your life. And those things tend to start to diminish and get lax, and that's when we have a lot of problems. Okay, we forget how much the other person needs, or, oh, well, they know I love them. She knows, he knows. Well, how? Okay? And so it's like that song, More Than Words, you got to do more than just say I love you. You're going to have to show it. How do you show it, Some people's love languages, we can go into the love language thing real quick here, but is like they want to hear certain things and everything. That makes them feel loved. Other people, you can say all you want, but that's not going to do a thing. They need to have you do something. Either gifts, even small things, or just physical affection, or doing some sort of act of service. Different ways we communicate. And what happens is when we first are trying to woo and win the person over, we care more about those things and try to do those things and are focused on. And the way we know is we look at the person's face and we say, "Oh, I got the reaction I was hoping for. That's what works." And then we get married and we don't care anymore. And we're not paying attention to the face we're getting. Okay? Or this one, I don't know if you can see with the glasses where they're like, the eye roll. We don't care about that anymore. All right? We wanted to be married, now we're married. Okay, mission accomplished, move on. Especially that's bad for whichever one was doing the pursuing that really wanted. It could be the guy or the girl. Hey, I got it, that's it. There's lots of more complex things to it as well. But see, I can see how that could be a good metaphor for this, is understanding that when you say you've left your first love, in other words, you stopped doing the things you first did when you were in love. Okay, how's that for a better way to maybe kind of picture it, okay? Because I know that I did a lot of things, with my wife and for my wife when we first got married that I don't do as much anymore, okay? And that's shame on me. And of course, she's got the same problem because, again, we've been married now almost 20 years. And it's easy to fall into these patterns of behavior where you don't do those things that you used to do. Okay, I won't tell you the things that they were. You'll all be going like, oh, dumb things. All right? Okay. Funny thing was, we ended up in a shopping center, like a Publix or something, at the supermarket, and there was an older lady saw us, and she could tell that we were like newlyweds the way we were. And so my wife started talking to her, and she was like, oh, my husband does this and that, the other thing. And then the lady's like, yeah. Let's have this conversation in 5 years. See if all that's still going on. And we were like, oh, no, the lady was right, but Of course, she was in her 60s and had already been married for 35 years, and she knew better, and we were married for 5 minutes and had no idea, okay? But you can choose to embrace your first love, the things you did when you were first in love, and that could really make a difference, okay? All right. Now, some of the things you might have done in the backseat of a car, don't try that now if you're in your 50s. You'll hurt something bad. Rabbi, did he really say that? But you married couples, I'm not talking about that, okay? You own a house now, an apartment, you're fine. Okay. I had to put something out there to make everybody go, what? Did he really just say that? You know who like that the best? The Gadol class kids over here. They're all laughing their heads off. Okay, I think I embarrassed them worse than you guys do, the adults. Okay, that could cover it. What else you got over there? On that note, nobody wants to go after that, right? Okay. Mr. Nate, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you, Rabbi, because of where we were struggling with some of the things in the Messianic type. We couldn't really quite put our finger on what was wrong.
Right.
But we just knew it wasn't right. There was some truth to what was being taught, but we'd just come out of Christianity and so we were struggling with that, and we decided, well, we can't figure it out. Let's just keep moving on. And then your teaching about beware false prophets brought us that. Okay, here's somebody who's really teaching, so we paid attention to what you were teaching. So I'm just really thankful that because I get excited about when I learn something, and I want to go teach it. I want to go talk to somebody about it and share it. But then understanding that you have the understanding of teachers are going to get more held accountable. And so I'm really thankful that I have been able to vet you and watch not only you, but the leadership within this group and the submission of the leadership, and be able to go, I can learn under this. I can learn under this person. I've only been married, so to speak, for a few years. I really don't know what I don't know yet. And if I'm willing to submit to that, maybe Abba can use me later once I've been married for longer than 5 minutes and still a child and learning Torah. So I just wanted to say thanks that you are stepping out there and Abba has used you and you're allowing to be used to teach and develop the body, to serve the body more effectively.
Amen. Look, it's not easy to be patient, especially if you've been in a teaching role before. A lot of these guys, had microphones and congregations and everything, and then they just simply moved over expecting to just keep the microphone and the congregations and everything. And it's very hard to start as a student again. Very hard to say, no, I need to learn from scratch, and that's okay. I don't need to walk in here and keep teaching. But, when you've had that life for a long time, it's really tough. It's really a challenge. And so I can empathize. Okay? But you got to do it anyway. You have to put that mic down and get properly trained and learn what you don't know that you don't know, and also figure out how to, look, every one of you, whatever you were before, let's say you were coming from a charismatic background, you know which teachers out there are still sound charismatic. If you were from a Baptist background, you know which ones still sound Baptist. You recognize it because I know you've told me, oh yeah, I can still hear the Baptist in him, or I can still hear the whatever it is, whatever the background was, you can hear it. Okay, you recognize it. And some of you are drawn to it because it's sort of comfortable. Some of you run away from it because that's exactly what you were trying to get away from. So it has an interesting reaction. Some people find it comforting because now they think they have what they liked back there in the proper context, even though it's not. And some of you say, I don't want anything to do with anything that even feels like where I came from, so you stay away from it. And so it has different reactions for people. And by the way, their witnesses, sweetheart, that I did try, I put 15 minutes on it, and I went 40. So I tried. But just so you know, as soon as I mentioned that I was doing 15 minutes, Dale thought it was the funniest thing she ever heard. So she just shrieked with, ha! You know, which was great. It was well-timed. And so, but I told them, you know, that I tried. Okay, and I didn't say anything that was embarrassing until the last 10 minutes, so. And listen, you guys should appreciate, and if you know me outside of this microphone, I am the same, whichever, all right? And some of you, I know have told me you find that at least comforting because you're tired of a guy who's different behind the mic and then different when you meet him or whatever. Because what I would have likely said in a private conversation, I just said things like that over the mic. I'm the same either way. I'm a real person, okay? And so whether that works for you or not, don't be surprised what might come out of this mouth like an In Focus called you sicko. You like it. And I like that when he put that in there, you actually have to go like 5 minutes till you get to the line. Like it's a 7-minute In Focus. I kept going, where is it? Oh, there it is. 5-minute setup. Oh, you guys already taken the table? All right, good. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close up. If you'll all rise, Robert's going to close us in prayer. Shabbat Shalom. Shavua Tov. All right. Have a good week. We love you guys.